All right, we seem to be live. Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a good day so far, maybe good afternoon already, good evening for some of you. Thanks so much for coming to the Product People live stream to speak about cool topics and product management. Feel free to wave at us in the comments, say hello, tell us how you're doing. This will also help more people on LinkedIn to see our live stream, and more people will join live. That would be great. We'll be doing the questions through the Slido. So feel free to already scan the QR code or go to slido.com and put in the code on the slide to put in your questions now and later throughout our conversation. And today we indeed gonna have a conversation. This will be Ask Me Anything with Alexandra Tomaszewska, who will talk about changing startup focus from small and medium businesses to enterprise. There is a lot behind this topic for sure, or behind this title. So we'll dive into exactly the experience that Alexandra had, where she's coming from, and we'll know more on how this journey can be happening. Before that, I'll introduce quickly myself. I'm Victoria. I'm a VP Product and Chief Operating Officer at Product People. I've been with Product People for quite some time now. I'm actually employee number 1, so the maximum possible time with Product People after the founder, that's me. Before that, I come from a background in neuroscience, which some people find surprising, but I actually think there are many transferable skills that I learned in academia, like data analytics, logical thinking, experimentation, that were very helpful for me in product management. And thanks to Product People, my product management journey has been super interesting. I had the chance to work with many cool companies like Omio, Freeletics, Tier, Zalando, Blinkist. That are some of the companies that are in B2C space that you probably know. There are more companies into B2B space that you maybe don't know so much. Still super cool, and it was great to work with them. And right now I'm doing less of the product management, consulting myself, more of internal operations, but still this is a lot about, like, on my mind every day. How do companies do good product management? And for those of you who haven't heard about Product People before, or maybe randomly stumbled across this live stream or were recommended to join, thanks for coming, by the way. This is shortly about us. We are a product management consultancy. We specialize in interim product management, product operations, and transformation. And we do this with our in-house product management consultants. So if you have in your company a need that we can cover, for example, you don't have a product manager for a period of time, maybe there's a parental leave situation, maybe a product manager has left the company relatively short notice, and hiring a new one can take many months. Actually, in Germany, the expectation is that it might take between 6 to 9 months to hire a full-time employee. We're here to help you to cover this role and make sure that you have all the product management expertise you need to continue creating the cool products that you will have. We also help with establishing product operations, making your operations smoother, or helping you go through digital transformation and understanding how to actually set up your organization for success in product management space. This is our business. This is how we make money. On the other side, we also have one of our important values in sharing knowledge and giving back to the community. So we host free events and talks for our community, which overall has more than 50,000 members right now. We have this live streams every Tuesday. So if you're first time here, I hope you join again. For those who are coming again, thank you so much for coming again. Happy to see you always here. And we also host offline events throughout Europe in different cities, mostly focused on product leaders, but also sometimes to a broader product management audience. And today, as I already said, we'll have an AMA to help us prepare, and me and Alexandra know better who is in the audience with us. We have an icebreaker question for you. Please tell us and answer this on Slido. Have you or your company ever transitioned from focusing on small, medium enterprises, businesses, to actually enterprise customers? And there we have four options for you. Yes, you're actually doing this right now. You already this already happened, this shift has already happened for you, this is number two. No, but you're considering this, or no, you're not planning to. I think there are many questions behind this, of course, in the details, like should you actually change, when should you change, how to go through this. Curious what's your experience, so that we also understand how we maybe shift a bit conversation in the angle that is most interesting to you. Please answer to us on Slido. You can see the code on the slide, or just scan QR code and access it from your mobile phone. And while we're waiting for feedback, which I'll have from our great tech host in a bit, I'll hand over to Alexandra to say a few words about herself, her experience, where she comes from, why this was the topic that she wanted to talk about today, how does she think that she has expertise. I think that would be a great start from our conversation. Alexandra, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Hi, I'm Alex. Yeah, I think I'll start with a short overview of my career path. So yes, basically, I think for the last about 13 years, I have been in product management this way or the other. The bigger half of it, like about 8 years, I was in HR tech industry. And basically, yeah, like touch different parts of HR products, like starting from job boards to ATS to all-in-one HR platforms. Now I'm also involved like in some HR services. But yeah, just to give like some key milestones of the career path. So I think like the most interesting part of my journey started in 2017 when I joined as a PM a startup, Russian startup called Potok.io. Basically, we were doing an ATS, applicant tracking system. And so, yeah, I joined very early on, like with a 6th employee or something. And as you probably know, at this early stage, even if your title says a product manager, you do pretty much everything, like from support to testing to sales to whatever it takes. And what like an interesting thing happened to me after 1 year in the company, that when we were in this shift and this transitioning from being an SMB focused company to being more an enterprise focused company, and of course I can tell you a little bit later in details why it happened. So while we were in this transition phase, the founder left the company, and that left me as basically that I needed to step into his shoes to become the CPO/CEO of the company, which was a very scary experience because at that time I had like zero experience of being a CPO. And so, yeah, but anyway, I did that. I like it was one of this pivot from SMB to enterprise was one of the like 2 biggest changes which happened to us during this 5-year road. Like I think we did pretty great because in this 5 years we managed to grow from like around 7 customers to having around $2 million ARR. After that, I left the company for a while. I was doing an ed tech product of my own, but then it was the next HR tech milestone. So I was from 2022 to 2024, I was working for Factorial, and Factorial is a Spanish unicorn startup, an all-in-one HR platform. Yeah, and basically now I'm working at remote. I'm product director, responsible basically from building the all-in-one HR platform, but for remote. And actually, when I just was thinking about what I should be telling in this talk, I was thinking that to focus more on my Potok experience because it's where this major shift happened. But then I understood that this choice, like where should I go, SMB or enterprise, is something overarching. And in my work at Factorial, now at my work at remote, these are the questions which pop up constantly. Like, yes, of course, they mostly focus on SMB customers, but hey, Burger King came to us and is asking for all-in-one HR platform. Like, should we go after it?
Cool.
So, yeah.
Thanks a lot for the intro, Alex. In the meantime, we got the answers from the Slido. So 75% of the people said they are in the process. So somehow they already came to the decision that they should move. and others are not, but they are considering this move. So it seems to be a very relevant topic to our audience of today. I'll leave this slide open so that you have you know where to post the questions. Please give us more questions, and in the meantime, we'll start with the questions we have prepared. Let's talk a bit about this shift in more detail, right? How did you come to a conclusion at Potok that this should happen? Maybe for this, some more intro about the product would be helpful. Like what was the functionality of the product initially? What was the initial customer base? Why? And then why the shift was necessary or you wanted to do it?
Sure, yes. Sorry for not doing it earlier. Actually, I think I have been in HR tech for far too long. So when I say applicant tracking system, I somehow think that all other people know what it is. And of course, they shouldn't do. So applicant tracking system, to put it in a very simple way, is a CRM for recruitment. Basically, a system where you move candidates between phases. You can post a job from the CRM to LinkedIn to Indeed or whatever. And then you can just watch the statistics on how good or how bad your recruitment team performed. And yeah, indeed, when we were just starting in Russia, we were focusing on SMB companies because they are more willing to change. They also don't have that complicated processes. And when we were just super early on, just launching our alpha version of the product, they were willing to try that. Like they were like, it was really super easy to start. They don't have like a complicated candidate database to upload, so they can just plug and play, pay with credit card, and that's it.
All right, and then what happened then? What were the first signs that you started to consider that the shift is necessary? Did the enterprise came to you, or you're not making enough money? How did this start?
Actually, yeah, several things have happened. So the first thing that happened, that yes, of course, like a bigger customers started approaching us about that. Actually, I joined the company because it was the first, the company signed their first big customer, and I was like, they didn't have experience of working with enterprise customers, and so they hired me basically to somehow lead this implementation at first. So yes, bigger customers started approaching us. The second thing is that we understood that even though for SMBs it is very easy to start with an ATS, they don't have much money to spare, and for them, since they're not hiring a lot, like probably 1 or 2 people per month, so it is probably not like doesn't have big value. If I hire 1 person per month, I still can do it in Excel, and it is free, it is flexible, it is easy to use. So that's the other thing. And the third thing that we understood, that even though small companies pay less, actually the difference in the average bill is about 10 times between enterprise and the SMB. They still have a lot of wishes, and they still churn if these wishes do not get fulfilled. So we figured that, hey, we have these big companies who have much bigger check. We can address their needs pretty easily. So why not go there? And also, like a fourth factor, that we had an investors at that time, and that investors were doing also like a quite a huge push for us to move to that direction.
Cool. Makes sense. I think these are very relatable aspects that can happen with many companies. So how did you then execute exactly on this plan? Did you drop onboarding any new SMBs and focused on looking for big enterprise? How did this impact your roadmap in terms of features? Maybe things that worked well that you think this is how like was good decision, and maybe then some things that didn't go well, maybe some mistakes you made that people can learn from this.
To be honest with you, it didn't go well at all.
All right, then it's more interesting even.
Full disclosure, it didn't go well. And why? I think like I was probably one of the people to blame for that, because at that time and during that transition, I was the only product person we had. So of course, I'm responsible for that. So basically what happened that for the first 1.5 years, so even before I joined the company, we were working with SMBs, like really this trendy companies, like very, very light, nice communication, everything like super agile, but very little money. And when the big companies came, so it was like major telecom companies, like a couple of major banks, just companies with about 3,000 employees in comparison to 50 employee companies, which we were working before. And so these big companies with this big ARR attached to them. And basically all of them, and actually I saw the same happening in when I was working for a Russian company, when I was working for a Spanish company. I see the same now when I'm working for an American company. Then whenever an enterprise company comes to you, they have the same pitch. Our recruiting processes are so unique that no out-of-the-box product can solve them right away. It really sounds like there is I don't know, an article somewhere where they all read and they all then come to products and say that. And why is that important? Because each of this big company said, yes, you have an amazing product, like very nice UX, but we have this unique recruiting processes which you need to adapt to. And so we were so happy that we were having so much money from these customers that we got overly happy, and actually we stopped doing product work. And what I mean here is that we basically were doing project management instead of product management. So, okay, you're a big company, you ask for this integration with your HRS system. Okay, here's the team, pay us per hour, we go do that. Okay, another company asks for the same integration or very similar one. Okay, we do it separately. And like it was working pretty well for like about a year or so. But then the product started to fall apart. So what I mean is that, first of all, the like stability of the product was very bad. So it started to crash. At that time, we didn't have a QA team even. So you can imagine how bad it was. And so, of course, these big customers, they started to complain. They started to be in a risk of churn. So that's one thing. The other thing, that since instead of one wholesome product, we had this set of different patches, so the implementation started to take forever. So even the analysis part, when we were just giving estimations of time, started to take forever because it's super complicated. And if some analytic will leave the company, so it's a huge disaster because no one knows what exactly set of patches we have done for those customers. So I think after a year of this project management work, I remember that it was November, and I found myself thinking, like, am I really going to lose the company now? Because it looked very desperate. Like, customers are happy, products is crashing, implementation's taking forever. We are not, like, no one wants to do this new sales. Our own team doesn't want to do the new sales because they understand that it will be just more problems for them and more suffering. Yeah, it was pretty tough time.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds like a lot. Also, those sounds like a story that we've seen with other products. I think sometimes the result of it, whenever people ask how far into customization we want to go for these big enterprise clients, I think we should all just think about Jira, and then we start realizing the extent of how bad it can become. Bad in quotations. You might, I think, create a very successful commercially product. So I think Atlassian is successful commercially, but then you have a lot of overhead on implementation of each individual variation of Jira, and maybe not so visible for people who work for a few years in the same company. But me as consultant going to multiple different companies, and I think I work with maybe more than 20 different companies, each time I come, Jira looks somewhat different. Some features are a bit different. Like the view, like the UI is a bit different. Things are different, and it's not only about how they select the workflows, but also where do I find certain settings and so on. And this definitely creates very convoluted experience for customers. It or for the users, right? It creates also high risk for problems, technical issues, and you need a lot of people to just support it. And with big organizations, then they create internal workforce to help with Jira implementation because there is something that's wrong almost every day that needs support. And maybe you did not get exactly to this stage, but I understand that this was kind of heading in that direction, right? Very complicated, convoluted product because of many customizations. Interesting, I wanted to ask you about this, maybe quite specific, but at the same time, maybe transferable to other areas. You said it sounds like each company comes with a similar request and each company thinks that their process is very unique. Is it true though? Do you think that there was like a middle way or middle ground where you could have maybe found a solution for the request that would fit to more companies, not just one specific company?
That's a very good question. There is this quote from Leo Tolstoy about families, that all families are happy in the same way, but unhappy in their own way. And I think it kind of be related to processes in big companies. What I'm trying to say here is that, of course, like they also have their patches in the processes, and their processes not always optimal. And what I think we should be doing as product companies who see a lot of different companies, a lot of different patterns, and who know the best practices, that we should be doing some educational work and saying, okay, like we see your processes, but we know that the best practice in this and that, like to give you a very simple, stupid, straightforward example is about performance management. So performance reviews as a process was usually companies have once a year to appraise who is top performer, who is low performer. And it's also a part of the all-in-one HR platform we are working on. And they do it once a year. And we all know that it makes no sense, because if I wait 1 year to get appraised, probably by the time of the appraisal, I will not be in the company. And so what we do as product people, we say that, hey, the best practice is to share this continuous feedback, that you have this one-to-ones, like we automatically will collect all your notes and help you prepare so that you can do this performance reviews at least once a quarter. So this is kind of example of education work, which we should be doing. And if we do that, then I would say that at least when we're speaking about HR tech, like, I don't know, 80% of all processes are very, very similar.
I think this is a very interesting point, Alex. Thanks for pointing this out. So I am hearing that you say that as a product company, we should not only be delivering the product, but also do a bit of a maybe service, advisory, and consulting around or in the product area that we're working on. And I agree with you. I think there is sometimes the belief that we just need the right tool and then somehow it's going to magically work and solve our problems. And also this what leads oftentimes for enterprise or other companies to move to a new tool because they feel, oh, this tool, like something is not working so well. We're not happy with how the hiring works. We're not happy with how performance works. Probably we should find a new tool. They do a big research. They find a new tool. They do migration. In a year after that, it's probably all the same because it's not just the tool. It also has to be some underlying processes, how people interact with the tool. And unless there has been some good advice from experts in the field on how to create the process that would work, I think, it's not going to work. And they will try to patch it with more kind of customizations or workaround and say, to help our recruitment process work better, maybe we need to add more notifications, more reminders, or performance, same like more reminders for people. But if there is no interest from people in the company to do performance reviews, for example, like as you said, they don't feel it will impact them. This is not going to be the tool will not solve. They will have just more emails that they put in the trash. Super interesting. I don't think I've seen many companies that do this, but I think the ones that do some advisory would be really helpful. An interesting example comes to my mind from a different space, but I think still relevant. And it's also B2C example. There is a inbox tool called Superhuman. I'm a big fan and use it for a few years already now. And I think it's quite incredible. Like it's an expensive tool, but it's incredible that they do invest time to onboard you. And like it's really, you have 1 hour call with their consultant. I'm not sure what exactly was the title, but this is the person who helps you open the tool, see how it works, teaches you a few of the shortcuts that are actually the really deal breakers, I think, of operating well in Superhuman, and kind of nicely forces you to get to your first inbox zero. So they help you like archive things, tell you these are the few things you can do to clean up, and show you how you can reach inbox zero, and you have learned these 2-3 shortcuts that can actually you will be doing like 90% of the time. And I think with also the B2P, probably doing more of this really training, including the best practices about the craft, about the content, not only where to click, but also the attitude behind it. Maybe that might be really impacting the usage of the tool.
Absolutely. Actually, you made a very good point. Unfortunately, at that time, I worked in Potok. We didn't think about it at all. But when we're speaking about educating our customers, there's really like two initiatives which we should be doing. One, like as I said, with solution consultants, people who are experts both on, for example, in HR and in IT. So yes, but also we should be very prescriptive, especially if we are speaking about SMBs, in our product, and also like having this best practices kind of hard coded like to the DNA of the product. So that is really super important. And at that time, so it was like 8 years ago, we unfortunately we really didn't think about that at all.
Cool. We have went head first into one of the specific problems. Let's list again the things that were maybe unexpected or actual problems that you met on your way to the shift. The one thing you mentioned was the communication, that the culture of communication, I assume also the speed of communication was very different when you worked with enterprises compared to SMBs. This is something to account for. Another one was that each enterprise wanted a unique customized solution. What were any other things that were challenging or unexpected to you?
Actually, the biggest challenge was concerned with this high demand for customizations, and a lot of troubles which we got afterwards were connected to how we processed these requests, both in product and in sales and in implementation.
By the way, I want to remind our audience, please ask your questions. Don't hesitate. We'll get to them as soon as we can. I have some questions prepared that we want to go through, but your questions are equally important. I want to ask a bit about sales, and I'm not sure how much you were involved, but I suspect you were, since you were the main product person in the company. Enterprises are usually very used to like vendor selection processes. We'll probably try to negotiate for quite like many things, and also are ready to negotiate for a long time. Has this been a challenge for you somehow?
Not at all, actually, surprisingly, not at all. Basically, so yeah, yes, it is true that enterprise companies have long and tedious procurement process, that it takes our sales cycle shifted from around 1 month to about 12 months when we did the switch. But
Yeah.
since we didn't say no to small customers for a very, very, very long time, so even though we were waiting for these deals to close, since we had this tail of smaller customers, so we did not have like a not sure how it's called, like a cash break when you run out of cash.
Yeah. There was no cash flow issue of any sorts. Good. I think that's a good solution, and also answering one of my questions, whether like you should like shifting focus means completely stopping serving the smaller customers. Probably not if you're a startup, right? And you're just entering the stage of the enterprises.
Yes, and this is actually also very important for the companies who are just starting, though, who don't have this long tail of smaller customers. Because, like, for example, if we take Factorial, they have around 9K customers already. And even if they today go crazy and decide to focus on enterprise customers, it probably won't hit them that hard because they still have this a lot of previous ARR, a lot of these subscriptions. But for smaller startups, I don't know, like early stage, I probably would go as far as to recommend not to do that, not to go to enterprise customers because before you have like some solid SMB base.
A great segue to some advice. So, in what case or what to consider when deciding whether or not to go to enterprises, either switch from SMBs or as your first client or target audience? How to decide?
Oof. That's a very tough question, but by starting with enterprise customer, I see a huge risk, and I saw that a lot. Because our investor, he was also investing in many early stage startups in HR tech area outside of Potok, and of course for them, for the smaller startups, this was a big company. Actually, it was Severstal, so about 30,000 employees, so pretty big company. And so for these small startups, Severstal was the first customer. And what I saw that since it also was a especially tricky situation because it's your investor and your customer at the same time. So basically, these teams very soon stopped being like products. They started being like implementation teams because again, they like this customer has all the leverage against you, like all the time in any negotiation. When they say sorry, it doesn't fit our product strategy, they say okay, like we probably stop paying you, and then you will die immediately. So to me, if I had started a startup right now in a B2B SaaS, I would think not twice, but 100 times before going to an enterprise customer as my first customer. I don't know, probably Victoria, any examples of companies which turned out to be super successful, but who started by having like one very big enterprise?
That's a very good question. I actually also were thinking other also very good products that I would say, yeah, they work for enterprise or focus on enterprise and they're super cool. Kind of hard. Nothing comes to my mind right now. I'll think more. The audience, you're welcome to also give us tips or recommend us to look at a certain company. Something comes to your mind. I also feel that it's a pretty, as you said, it's a pretty challenging start. The risks are either, yeah, the main client will acquire you in one way or another, right? Either just buy the technology, maybe buy technology with part of the team that they stay to support it, but then they might not be interested into developing it further. It might be good for them for next 2 years, and then you're gonna think again. It might be that, yeah, you're also forced to either sell out or close, because if you're not like adding other clients to your portfolio, then eventually this is not very successful company. And many companies that I think became quite big grew a lot and were commercially successful are the ones that have a mix between SMBs and enterprise of some sort. Even though I think it still leaves for a product to become less of a nice product. I honestly think the experience becomes more complicated. I'm thinking also of some like HR technology, application tracking systems, unfortunately, oftentimes are really not great products somehow. And the experience that we've had with product people internally and what I saw at clients, it's either a complicated system and some things are really non-intuitive. And I suspect this came from a specific request of a specific client. And for them, this may be what was intuitive, but this is not a generic approach to something or not a very common approach. Some things might be only available for like very expert enterprise users, so this require a lot of setup. And then there are tools that are really very lightweight, but then they are often just too lightweight, and then they don't allow us to manage it much better than Excel sometimes. So it's very, or managing it in some kind of task tracking tool that you can maybe already have for other things like Trello or make a Notion board.
Actually, you did a very good point about like in which situation would I advise to someone, to a startup owner, to start with an enterprise customer. That's a very, very good point you've made, that if you have a strategy to sell this company in 1 year, that is probably the best thing you can do. Actually, yes, I didn't have it in my head when I was thinking. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's fair. Indeed, we sometimes, as especially product managers, we are very focused on creating great products that would live long and so on, and don't consider that there's can be very commercial oriented business strategy that I want to build something that we can sell. It has to solve problems of a certain small group of people or even one company only that we can then successfully sell and move on. Yeah, can well be. All right, then moving on the advice path. We discussed what can be reasons to not go for enterprise and what can be at least one reason to go for enterprise as your first ones. If you are considering, if you exist for like, there is a product that exists for some time, as we had with Potok, and you have some clients, and now enterprise starts reaching out to you, they're requesting your interest. How do you decide whether this is a good direction to go and how to maybe minimize the risks or these challenges that you talked about?
Yes, I can tell about how we addressed it, because even though the situation was horrible at the moment, like I think we managed to find our way out, and like we did pretty great as an ATS for enterprise customers. So there were several things which we have done in terms of product and in terms of sales. So in terms of product, what we started doing is basically we started to do product work. So what we did, we have listed all the requirements from our enterprise customers, and we started to group them somehow. We wanted to see the patterns, like, okay, what is the most common request? Okay, they want to integrate with their HRS system. So, okay, how, like, what do they want? Like, can we make one unified connector from our ATS to this HRS system? So that was one thing which we started doing. And after that, of course, after we started to see the patterns, we came up with a vision that instead of being a set of patches, our product should start more being like an IKEA furniture or some Lego constructor, meaning that, of course, we are still very flexible and customizable to satisfy our enterprise customers, but it is not through additional development. It is through giving you, as an enterprise customer, these different Lego blocks which satisfy your needs. So, for example, again, we want this integration. Super, we have universal connector. It will attach to any HRE system you have. Just use it. It will work fine. It needs 0 time of development on our side. You want this custom fields added? Okay, super. We can do it on our back office, again, with 0 time of development. So this helped us in many ways. So after we have rewritten basically the product, and it started to be this IKEA furniture. So first of all, we had a huge reduction in the number of bugs, the stability improved, but also since the development was not involved or almost not involved into the customization process, it allowed us to speed up the implementation because we started to have an implementation team, like basically high-level support agents who were using our back office to help you set up this API integration, help you set up this customization field. So that is what we have done in terms of product. And what we have started doing in terms of sales organization. So basically, we started to say no to customers' wishes, and I think it's also very important, when they were not aligned with our vision of, like, our strategy vision for the product. Like, for example, if we see that no one in Russia wants, I don't know, to do background checks of candidates, and this one customer like asks for them, we would probably say no, or we say, okay, we probably have it in 2026, so you either wait or we don't do that. And we started to do pretty strict with that. It was very scary. It is super scary. But also what we learned that with enterprise customers, the churn is about 0, because they also have not many options, because again, after they have done all these integrations, they have implemented all this work on their side as well to make the system work. It will take them forever, and it will take them huge amount of money and everything to restart it from scratch. So we also realize that we actually also do have some leverage here. So we sometimes, if we give good reasoning and be nice, we can say no to customers.
That's great. I think I love the last point that, yeah, you need to understand what is your leverage. A negotiation is a two-side conversation where, yeah, the client is promising you a lot of money, but also you have something that the client wants. And I think trying to build this eye-level conversation is very helpful. And I was hoping that you would say something that you did say, that vision is important. So deciding what kind of product we want to be and being serious about this, right? And yes, maybe you at the same time want to be a highly customizable product. Maybe it's true, but there might still be topics that you decide never to invest in. For example, you focus on HR and performance, or like recruiting and performance, and maybe that's it. And there are many adjacent topics, and sometimes products start to growing into this other areas. But if you really try to put this together, this sometimes creates these monsters that are, you can customize anything with anything, but in the end, you're not able to use actually anything of that. I will not name names, but there are products that I've seen like that. And theoretically, it can be managing like all the HR topics, can be managing performance and helps you hire and does the learning and development training and project manage and I don't know, purchase order processing. But then it's so hard to use any of these features because they try to stitch them all together, and this at some point was just in like not good. So not good product commercially. I think at some point they start to become commercially also not so successful because users have a limit how far they can brace themselves and go through the challenge.
You know, it is very funny that you gave that as example, because for me, like, I don't know, several years ago, for me, it made a ton of sense. But actually what we see now, that's actually exactly what is happening in the HR tech market. So instead of all this like super refined point solutions, which go super deep into one problem, like greenhouse or workable, they have been working for 20 years on their ATS. It's like it has all the features which an ATS can have. But it solves only one problem. And so what's happening now, and all this rapidly growing HR tech unicorns, actually what they do, like Personio or like Factorial, who are really growing like this, they go horizontal. They solve all these problems ATS, performance reviews, employee trainings, I forgot, whatever, employee onboarding, employee engagement, whatever. I can continue until eternity, and they solve it all. So they slice not by function, but they slice horizontally by profile of customers whom they are addressing. And for these small customers, they just give this plug and play all-in-one HR platform, which is like magic button and solves all your HR related products with one, I don't know, with one click. But I agree with you that it's super counterintuitive.
I think they're optimizing not by the user or the customer profile, but the budget owner profile. So who's the budget owner for this, and what are all the different topics they have under their budget that we can serve? Commercially makes a lot of sense. Product wise, can create very challenging products. I wonder if anyone is solving this through actually creating different products, or connected but different. I understand also the pain of like HR managers, or like HR or people, VP of people or head of people, who needs to somehow have this full representation of the life cycle of a person inside of the company. I also have the same problem at product people, or same challenge to solve. How do I connect the dots? I know how this person, how did we hire them? How did they perform throughout? Where were they happy? How many sick leaves they took? So somehow I can build a full picture of this experience and also act on this. I think that's definitely valuable. But then that's not happening all at the same time for me or for the employee. And maybe this is where this is becoming problematic. Like you are trying to put the very, very long user journey into one product with one interface, and that is not very easy to solve. And there was another point that you mentioned that I wanted to get back to, and now I forgot because I was so excited about how to not become a complicated product.
Actually,
yeah, so you said,
go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that I totally agree that there is a huge risk of creating a Frankenstein instead of all-in-one HR platform, because again, it's not like one team building this all-in-one solution. There's like 50 or 30 teams. One is working on time off, other is working on applicant tracking system, whatever. So yes, that's a huge, not even product, it's more of a design challenge, that how I, as a PM, think outside of my small domain, outside of my, I don't know, performance review domain, and how do I take into account this all end-to-end flow? That is not easy. Like I cannot say that, hey, at Factorial or at Remote, like we mastered it perfectly. That is really like work in progress, and that is really like an ongoing challenge, because there are also like this, and I think it's like also very important for the role of the product director also to have this like high level view and say that, hey, even though you work on performance management, it affects how the employees of your customers are paid. And so whenever you think about performance reviews, you think how it will influence their salary. So take it into consideration while you're working on your product. But it's super not easy. Like,
interesting. I think you're totally right. This is a lot about user experience and design of the user experience. And maybe we are at the point where previous ways to think about the interface and user experience are not working so well anymore, because the amount of dimensions that we have that we try to incorporate into one solution is just too much. I think we can see, I think it's not going to be a fast shift, because also we're used to this kind of 2D experience where we have a very clear hierarchy of things, there are nested things. But we see some shifts in the space of note-taking tools, for example, knowledge organization tools, where in the past it was just notes, right? There are lists and then there's a stack of lists. And now there are more tools that work as knowledge graphs, so Obsidian, Roam, where things can be interconnected to each other, more like a wiki of some sort. where it's not necessarily like straight hierarchy of I go from one point to another, and then maybe this serves better these complex situations where we have all these different dimensions that we try to represent and that are definitely somehow connected. But if you try to put them on 2 dimensions, this becomes this very complicated path of I need to click so many different things, open here, and then I'm finally at where I need to be. Let's see where it leads us. It's interesting to think about the future.
Absolutely.
At the same time, sorry to interrupt here. Maybe you can comment to say how this impacts your industry. AI chatbots making huge steps forward, where maybe it's less, or that's one hypothesis we might have about the user experience design, right? Will be less of us clicking around and more of asking in human language about something and then receiving an answer also in human language. What's your opinion about this? Will this play a big role, you think, in the B2B HR tech specifically, or more generally B2B?
I have an answer for that, but it's an answer of a very boomer generation person. Okay. So I don't believe in AI chatbots, but like bear with me. I can explain. So I mean I believe in AI. Like I'm not crazy, but I think that we shouldn't be bringing the users to the point when they ask questions. I think that what the system should do, it should be, I hate the word, but it should be proactively showing like what's going on. It should be using all this data, and we have a tons of data in all-in-one HR platforms, but the system should be speaking to me, not me speaking to the system, because the biggest problem with the prompts and with all this communication with chatbots is what question to ask. And if the system, for example, would be analyzing that I am now looking at the profile of this person who works in France, and I am an HR from Germany, so I don't have very good understanding on how the HR regulations work in France. And if the system would be proactively showing me that, hey, like there is this law change, probably you should take a look there, or probably this person clocked in his time, which is not exactly in accordance to these regulations, like have a look there. So that is the ideal experience, I think, for HR person, which we should be designing, especially if we're thinking about the companies who are hiring internationally. And so there is much more knowledge to consume and to take into account than when you're just hiring in one country.
Right. So you're saying it should be more, in your ideal view, it should be more of I have a goal I want to achieve with the HR system, and I somehow explain this goal. Maybe I want to hire a new team member with certain role, right? And then it suggests me things, and plus as things develop, like we get applications and so on, I get also some more context what I should consider for specific case, not only this existing features of how well this person fits the keywords, but maybe deeper insights about what's important about this profile.
Yes. So in the case of hiring that, I can create a job description like myself, okay. But then if the system should be proactively showing me these candidates, like without me going to the database and like asking the questions, so that is the ideal result. So, and also what I see the role of AI is to show, like, again, we have so much data in HR platform. So why not analyze trends? So why not show, and especially when we're speaking about like overarching reports, which connect, I don't know, to top performers to time tracking. Like the top performers are not clocking enough time lately. So probably there is a trend that they are burnt out, so they are not engaged with the company. So that is the kind of direction I see for AI.
Yeah, that's a very interesting direction. I think that can lead us to thinking whether we even need HR people as people. Maybe it's a system that analyzes data and tells us the system realizes you need more people working in certain topic. You need a new engineer because here we have someone who we need to send on vacation, but your deadline is coming up. So, and here are 5 profiles that are selected for you. I don't know if this is
No,
very far.
ideally, like if someone asks me like how it is the future of HR, that's how I see the future, because HR people are basically usually by education they're psychologists. So what they should be working on is like, okay, for this team we need a new PM, but I know that the psychological profile of this team, so this guy like or this girl we're looking for should be this type, this psychological type, so they can be like advisors of hiring managers and not just the secretaries, like moving around candidates, sending notifications, oh, you have forgotten to fill in your timesheet, like that. We don't need humans for that.
I agree. I think that also my positive view on why AI is good is that I think we can do less of a stupid administrative work, hopefully, and more things that actually require human interaction and more about us as humans. We're coming close to time. I will now give you 1-2 minutes to think about some final thoughts you want to share with the audience, Alex. In the meantime, I say a few more words about product people and then get back to you for final things. I spoke about product people at the beginning. We're product management consultancy specialized in interim product management and shorter term projects in space of product management. This can be covering a role of product managers that you have empty for a certain reason, either parental leave or some other leave, or maybe a person has left the company, helping you as product coaches or consultants if there are some things that we need to, like challenging things, maybe like the one we're discussing here today, whether you should change from SMBs to enterprises and what's the good product approach to this topic. Maybe you want to test a new hypothesis or run an MVP for something and you don't like your current team is busy, then we can come in for a few months and help you with that. We can also help you discover something in a new space, understand where new opportunities lie within your product space. We worked with many known companies in Europe, like Zalando, Tier, Scan24, Backmarket, Vinao, Douglas, Ecosia, Omio, Blinkist. We also work with many big and some of them quite known B2B organizations like World Health Organization. Also, we worked a bit with Remote, Alex. This was before your time, so probably you haven't heard about this, but we've done a project there as well. Some other companies like GfK is maybe something that people heard of. And we are around 40 people right now. We've supported so far more than 300 cross-functional teams with actually close to 100 clients, even though this slide says less. So it's time to update the slide. We have some open roles with product people. So if you're looking for becoming a product management consultant or curious about this, please check out our website and see what roles we have. And now I like to hand over to Alex for just last few things you'd like to say. What's your main advice on the topic of SMB to enterprise shifts?
Yeah, probably the 2 key thoughts which I would like all of you to take up from the presentation is that first, I think it's really very important not to focus on enterprise customers too early, and unless you want to sell the company, of course, as Victoria mentioned. And the other thing is, it basically became a motto in our company after all this customization drama, is that you have to learn how to say no to big customers. So that is very scary, but very important at the same time.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Thanks for openly sharing your story. I think also quite vulnerable story. Thank you for that, and for sharing your learnings and also conclusions that you have. That was super interesting chat for me. I hope also for people who watched us online and who will watch us afterwards and as a recording. Thank you, Alex, for coming online with us today. And yeah, hopefully see each other again.